Hey, g'day, I'm Denny, and I just want to tell you a little bit of my story. I'm blessed with a great wife, Nikki, and I have 5 kids, Jess, Beck, Jacob, Jack, and Abby. And we're farmers, and this is our place just outside Inverell. And let me go back and tell you a little bit of when I was a kid. I grew up at Kyogle, which is just on the eastern side of the range, and we ran both dairy and beef, and sixth generation farmer. Originally come from convicts. But we had a great life, and I was the eldest of 5 boys, and I was very fortunate to grow up in a stable home, a Christian home, and so even as a kid, I knew about God. When I got to probably about 11, when you start to work things out for yourself, even though I knew there was a God, I also knew that I didn't actually know him myself personally. And somehow I came up with this idea in my head, sounds crazy now, that going to heaven was going to be like a big sports awards day. And God's just going to hand out prizes, and who gets to go to heaven, and first prize, second prize, and then I thought he's going to start handing out awards for good effort. And I sort of thought if I kept my nose clean that I might just scrape by and get a good effort award, because I thought surely I'm going to be in the top half, I'm going to be above average, God's probably going to let half in, so I'd probably get in the door. Now I can't believe that's what I thought. Just doesn't make sense, but I did, and really I was just making up excuses. And then probably when I got to about 13, I got dragged along one night to a church meeting over near the coast, and I couldn't tell you who the guy was speaking, and I couldn't even tell you what he said, but the whole time I was sitting there, it felt like someone was speaking direct to my heart. It really did. I couldn't ignore it. And all of a sudden in my heart, just inside me, I knew that I wasn't good enough, and I knew the truth was nothing I could do would ever be good enough. Nothing could ever make me right with God or get me into heaven, because only Jesus could be good enough. Only Jesus was perfect. And so I needed him to make me right with God. And so I knew that I needed to ask Jesus to forgive my pride, my stubbornness, and all the other dumb stuff I'd done, and just give my life to him and ask him to be Lord of my life. And so I knew in my heart that's what I was supposed to do. And then it was like all of a sudden I could hear the bloke speaking again. And basically he was saying that exact thing. And he was wanting anyone that wanted to make that decision to stand up and to walk down the front, in front of everyone. And he said that they were going to sing one verse of this song, kind of wouldn't know what it was. And if you want to come down, do it now, because they're going to finish. And I did not want to stand up in front of people. That just seemed weird to me. So I said to God, you need to change this bloke's mind. Make him sing a second verse, and then I'll know that I'm supposed to go down the front. And so we get to the end of the first verse, and the guy stands up and he says, I think there's someone here who's supposed to come down but hasn't yet, so we're going to sing a second verse. And now I'm thinking, that could have been a coincidence. I'm a bit on the steady side. So I said, God, make him sing a third verse. And guess what they did? And so I kept going. And I can't remember whether they ended up singing 8 or 9 verses, but finally I stood up and walked down the front. Now I want to say, coming to Jesus, coming to know him, has nothing at all with going to church or walking down the front or anything like that. It's about recognizing that Jesus is God, and that you need him, and that you want to know and follow him. It's about giving your life to him. And I was just being stupid and stubborn and playing games, and I was really just coming up with excuses. Don't do that. But God is so gracious, and he's so loving and accepting, and I was just his lost kid, and he wanted me to come home. And coming to Jesus, giving my life to him, is the best decision I've ever made. It's the best decision I could ever make. And before, when I was young, I was just worried about getting to heaven. But what I've discovered is the relationship you can have with God, knowing Jesus, that is so fulfilling now. Knowing Jesus gives me deep down in my guts peace, because he accepts me unconditionally. And I know that he loves me unconditionally. And he gives me belonging. And now my life makes sense. Now I have purpose and meaning, because I know that God has a plan for my life. And that hole in my life that could never be satisfied, well, Jesus has more than filled it. And I know I've been forgiven. My guilt and shame, Jesus has taken all that away. And that's, life still throws plenty of hard stuff at you. Even recently we've had tragedy. But I have Jesus. And so he's with us through the hard stuff. And actually, he even has purpose in the hard stuff. But much more than that, just knowing him is so good that everything else doesn't seem to matter in comparison. So now I can say I have real confidence because I know that my future is based in Jesus, is found in Jesus. And that's why I have real hope.